Welcome to Bedtime Express, your peaceful journey to dreamland. I'm here to guide you through the most soothing bedtime stories, designed to help you drift off into the sweetest of dreams. Tonight, we're embarking on a magical 3-hour adventure with the ancient Greek tale of Pandora's box. You'll discover the story of curiosity, wonder, and the eternal gift of hope that lives within us all. This gentle retelling is perfect for relaxation, meditation, or simply letting your mind wander to peaceful places. If you enjoy this dreamy journey, please give us a gentle like, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Bedtime Express for more enchanting bedtime stories. Ring that notification bell so you never miss a new adventure to dreamland. Now, find your most comfortable position, perhaps fluff your pillow and pull up your favorite blanket. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out gently. Allow your body to relax, your mind to quiet, and your imagination to open like a flower blooming in moonlight. It's time to close your eyes, let go of the day's worries, and join me on the Bedtime Express. Our destination tonight is the realm of peaceful dreams, and our story begins now. Pandora's box. Curiosity, wonder, and hope. Once upon a time, long, long ago, when the world was young and magical, there lived the gods high up on Mount Olympus. The mountain reached so high into the clouds that mortals could barely see its peak, and there, among the swirling mists and golden sunlight, the mighty gods made their home. In those days, the earth below was a very different place than it is today. There were no people walking about, no children playing in gardens, no mothers singing lullabies to their little ones. Instead, the world was filled with beautiful creatures, gentle deer that sparkled like starlight, birds whose songs could heal a broken heart, and trees that whispered ancient secrets to the wind. The king of all the gods was Zeus, whose voice could rumble like thunder across the heavens. But when he was happy, his laughter sounded like warm summer rain falling on flower petals. Zeus had many brothers and sisters, and among them was a very special titan named Prometheus. Now, Prometheus was different from the other gods. While they were content to watch the world from their cloudy palace, Prometheus felt his heart filled with love for all the creatures below. He would often sit at the edge of a cloud, his chin resting in his hands, watching the animals play and wondering about something very important. "The creatures of earth are beautiful," he would whisper to himself, "but they live such simple lives. They cannot create art, or tell stories, or dream of distant stars. What if there could be beings who could think and feel and imagine wonderful things?" Day after day, Prometheus watched and wondered. He saw how the animals lived only for today, never planning for tomorrow or remembering the joy of yesterday. His kind heart began to imagine creatures who could love more deeply, dream more vividly, and create more beautifully than anything that had ever existed. One morning, when the sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Prometheus made a decision that would change everything. He climbed down from Mount Olympus, his feet touching the soft earth for the first time in ages. He walked to a riverbank where the clay was smooth and perfect, like the clay children use to make little sculptures. Kneeling beside the water, Prometheus began to work with his hands. He scooped up the clay, feeling its coolness between his fingers, and slowly, carefully, he began to shape it. First, he made a head, round and perfect, then a body, strong but gentle. He crafted arms that could reach out to embrace, and legs that could carry his creation on wonderful adventures. As he worked, Prometheus hummed a soft melody, the same kind of gentle tune that mothers hum when they're rocking their babies to sleep. The melody seemed to flow into the clay figure, filling it with warmth and love. When he was finished, Prometheus had created the very first human being. But the clay figure lay still and silent on the riverbank. It was beautiful, yes, but it could not move or breathe or think. Prometheus knew he needed something very special to bring his creation to life. High up in the heavens, the gods kept a sacred fire that burned with the light of wisdom, creativity, and love. This fire was the source of all inspiration, all dreams, all the wonderful thoughts that make life magical. It was forbidden for anyone to take this fire to earth, but Prometheus's heart was so full of love for his clay creation that he knew he had to try. Very quietly, like a mouse tiptoeing through a sleeping house, Prometheus crept back up to Mount Olympus. He waited until all the gods were busy with their daily tasks. Zeus was painting new clouds across the sky. Poseidon was teaching dolphins how to dance, and Athena was weaving wisdom into spider webs. When no one was looking, Prometheus reached into the sacred fire and took a tiny flame, no bigger than the light of a firefly. He hid it carefully in a hollow reed, protecting it like a mother bird protects her eggs. Then, as quietly as he had come, he returned to earth. Kneeling beside his clay creation, Prometheus gently touched the tiny flame to the figure's forehead. Instantly, the most magical thing happened. Color flowed into the clay like watercolors spreading across paper. The chest began to rise and fall with gentle breathing. The eyes fluttered open like butterfly wings, and the first human being sat up and smiled. "Hello," whispered the first human, and even those simple words sounded like music. "Hello, dear one," Prometheus replied, his heart overflowing with joy. "Welcome to the world." And so began the age of humans on Earth. Prometheus created many more people, each one unique and special, like snowflakes or flowers in a garden. He taught them how to build homes to keep them warm and safe, how to grow food to nourish their bodies, and how to make fire to light the darkness. The humans learned quickly, and soon they were creating beautiful things, paintings that captured the colors of sunset, songs that made even the birds stop to listen, and stories that could make people laugh or cry or dream of wonderful adventures. They built cities with gardens full of flowers, and they took care of each other with kindness and love. But up on Mount Olympus, Zeus began to notice what was happening. At first, he watched with curiosity as the humans built their homes and planted their gardens. But as he saw them growing wiser and more creative each day, Using the sacred fire that Prometheus had given them, Zeus began to feel worried. "These humans are becoming too much like gods," Zeus said to himself, his brow furrowing like storm clouds gathering in the sky. "What if they become so wise and powerful that they no longer need us? What if they forget to honor the gods who created the world they live in?" Zeus called all the gods together in the great hall of Mount Olympus, a magnificent room with walls made of crystallized sunlight and floors polished smooth as still water. The gods gathered in a circle, their faces glowing with divine light, waiting to hear what their king had to say. "My dear family," Zeus began, his voice echoing through the hall like distant thunder, "we have a situation that requires our attention. Prometheus has given the sacred fire to the humans, and they are using it to become more like gods every day. We must find a way to remind them that they are still mortal beings who need our guidance and protection." The gods murmured among themselves, some nodding in agreement, others looking uncertain. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, raised her hand to speak. "Father Zeus," she said, her voice clear and thoughtful like the sound of wind chimes in a gentle breeze, "perhaps we could simply ask Prometheus to teach the humans about balance. They could keep their creativity and intelligence, but also learn humility and respect for the natural order." But Zeus had already made up his mind. He believed that humans needed to learn an important lesson about the consequences of reaching too high, too fast. And so, he devised a plan that would change the course of human history forever. "No, dear Athena," Zeus said, shaking his mighty head. "The humans must learn through experience, not just words. I have a different idea, one that will teach them about both the gifts and the responsibilities that come with knowledge." And so, Zeus began to plan the creation of someone very special, someone who would carry both wonderful gifts and important lessons to the world of humans. This someone would be beautiful and intelligent, curious and kind, but also the bearer of something that would change everything. As Zeus shared his plan with the other gods, Prometheus continued to live happily among the humans, teaching them new things every day and watching with pride as they grew in wisdom and creativity. He had no idea that far above in the clouds, a plan was forming that would soon bring both wonder and challenge to the world he had helped create. The first chapter of our story ends here, dear ones, with Prometheus's gift of fire burning bright in human hearts, and Zeus's plan beginning to take shape among the clouds. Close your eyes and imagine the first humans, grateful for their gifts, creating beautiful things and living in harmony with the world around them. Dream of their painted clay homes, their gardens full of singing flowers, and their warm fires that kept the darkness at bay. High up on Mount Olympus, where the air sparkled with magic and the clouds felt as soft as the finest silk, Zeus gathered all the gods and goddesses together for a very special meeting. They assembled in the Hall of Divine Crafts, a workshop so magnificent that it made even the most beautiful palace on earth seem plain by comparison. The walls of this workshop were lined with tools that gleamed like captured starlight, and shelves held jars filled with moonbeams, bottled laughter, crystallized music, and powdered dreams. This was where the gods came when they needed to create something truly extraordinary, something that had never existed before. "My dear family," Zeus announced, his voice warm but serious, like a father about to share an important story with his children. "Today we will create someone very special. She will be the most beautiful and interesting person who has ever walked the earth, and she will carry with her both wonderful gifts and important lessons for humanity." The gods looked at each other with curiosity and excitement. Creating a new being was not something they did every day, and they were eager to contribute their unique talents to this mysterious project. Zeus turned first to Hephaestus, the god of craftsmanship, whose hands could shape anything from the tiniest delicate jewelry to the mightiest mountains. Hephaestus had a workshop filled with hammers that sang while they worked, and anvils that could forge dreams into reality. "Dear Hephaestus," Zeus said with a smile, "I need you to create the most perfect form that has ever been sculpted. Use your finest clay, the kind that sparkles with flecks of gold and silver, and shape a woman so beautiful that flowers will turn to look at her as she passes by." Hephaestus nodded enthusiastically and rolled up his sleeves. He selected his most precious clay from a jar that had been sealed with starlight and began to work with the skill and love of an artist creating his masterpiece. His hands moved like a gentle dancer, shaping and smoothing until he had formed a figure of such grace and beauty that even the other gods gasped in wonder. When Hephaestus was finished, the clay figure lay peaceful and still, waiting for the breath of life. But Zeus was not done yet. He had asked each god and goddess to contribute something special to this creation. Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, stepped forward with a jar filled with liquid sunshine. "She shall have the gift of charm," Aphrodite said softly, sprinkling the golden liquid over the clay figure. "Wherever she goes, people will be drawn to her kindness and grace. She will have the ability to make others feel happy and loved just by being near them." Next came Athena, the wise goddess of wisdom and crafts, carrying a basket filled with silver thread that shimmered like moonlight on water. "I give her the gift of cleverness and skill," Athena announced, weaving the silver threads through the clay figure's hands. "She will be able to create beautiful things, tapestries that tell stories, pottery that holds not just water but dreams, and gardens that bloom with impossible flowers." Apollo, the god of music and poetry, approached with a golden harp smaller than a seashell. He placed it gently near the figure's heart. "Let her have the gift of music," he said, his voice like warm honey. "She will be able to sing songs that comfort the sad, inspire the discouraged, and fill any room with joy and laughter." Artemis, the goddess of nature and wild things, brought a crown made of living flowers that bloomed and changed with her emotions. "She will understand all the creatures of the earth," Artemis said, placing the crown on the figure's head. "Birds will sing to her, butterflies will dance around her, and even the shyest forest animals will trust her completely." Demeter, the goddess of the harvest and growing things, sprinkled seeds of kindness around the figure. "Wherever she walks, beautiful things will grow," Demeter whispered. "Not just plants and flowers, but friendship, love, and community." She will have the gift of bringing people together and helping them take care of each other. Hermes, the quick-witted messenger god, touched the figure's forehead with a feather that sparkled with curiosity. "I give her an insatiable desire to learn and explore," he said with a mischievous grin. "She will ask questions about everything, want to understand how things work, and never be satisfied with simple answers. Her curiosity will be as boundless as the sky." As each god added their gift, the clay figure began to glow with a soft, warm light, like the gentle glow of fireflies on a summer evening. But Zeus was saving the most important moment for last. Finally, Zeus himself stepped forward, holding in his hands a breath of pure life that sparkled like captured wind and smelled like spring rain. He leaned down close to the beautiful clay figure and whispered, "Awaken, dear one. Your name shall be Pandora, which means all gifted, for you carry within you the gifts of all the gods." As Zeus breathed life into the figure, the most magical transformation began. Color flowed through the clay like watercolors spreading across paper, warm, peachy skin, hair that flowed like liquid sunshine, and eyes the color of deep forest pools. The figure's chest began to rise and fall with gentle breathing, and her eyes fluttered open like butterfly wings greeting the morning sun. Pandora sat up slowly, looking around in wonder at all the magnificent gods and goddesses surrounding her. When she spoke, her voice was like music boxes and wind chimes having a conversation. "Hello," she said, and that simple word carried in it all the curiosity and kindness that the gods had woven into her being. "This place is so beautiful. Are you the ones who created me? What is my purpose here? There's so much I want to know and understand." The gods smiled at her enthusiasm, but Zeus's expression became more serious. He had one more gift to give Pandora, and this one was different from all the others. From behind his throne, Zeus brought forth a box unlike anything that had ever been created. It was made of wood that seemed to shift and change color as you looked at it. Sometimes deep brown like rich earth, sometimes silver like moonlight, sometimes gold like sunbeams. The box was covered with intricate carvings that seemed to move and dance when you weren't looking directly at them. But the most interesting thing about the box was its lock. It was not an ordinary lock that you could open with a key, but a puzzle lock with spinning rings covered in symbols that seemed to whisper secrets when the wind touched them. The box felt warm to the touch, and if you listened very carefully, you could hear the faintest sound coming from inside, PT, like distant ocean waves, or perhaps very quiet singing. "This, dear Pandora," Zeus said, holding the box carefully in both hands, "is your most special gift, but it comes with the most important responsibility you will ever have. You must never, ever open this box. Do you understand? No matter how curious you become, no matter how much you want to know what's inside, you must resist the urge to open it." Pandora looked at the box with wide, wondering eyes. Already, her gift of curiosity was stirring, making her want to touch the intricate carvings and figure out how the puzzle lock worked. But she nodded solemnly at Zeus's words. "I understand," she said, though her fingers were already itching to explore the mysterious box. I promise I will never open it. But, may I ask, what's inside? Zeus's expression grew even more serious. That, my dear child, is exactly why you must never open it. Some knowledge is too dangerous, some secrets too powerful. This box contains things that the world is not ready for, things that could change everything if they were released. The other gods exchanged meaningful glances, for they all knew what Zeus had sealed within that mysterious box. But Pandora, trusting and innocent, simply nodded again and carefully took the box into her arms. It was heavier than it looked, and warmer, and she could swear she felt it pulse gently like a sleeping heartbeat. "Now," Zeus said, his voice becoming lighter and more cheerful, "it is time for you to go to Earth and meet the humans. They will welcome you with joy, for you are more wonderful than anyone who has ever walked among them. Live with them, learn from them, share your gifts with them, and be happy." Hermes, the messenger god, stepped forward with a smile. "I'll escort you to Earth," he offered kindly. "I know just the place where you'll be welcomed with open arms." And so, carrying her mysterious box and accompanied by Hermes, Pandora descended from Mount Olympus toward the world of humans. As they traveled down through the clouds, she looked with wonder at everything below. The green forests, the sparkling rivers, the cities where tiny people moved about like busy ants. "It's all so beautiful," Pandora breathed, her eyes shining with excitement. "I can't wait to explore everything, to meet everyone, to learn all there is to know about this wonderful world." Hermes smiled at her enthusiasm, but in his heart he felt a small flutter of concern. He knew about the box she carried, and he knew about the curiosity that had been woven into her very being. He hoped that her promise to Zeus would be stronger than the gifts the gods had given her. As they approached the earth, Pandora clutched her mysterious box a little tighter, feeling it pulse with secrets she would never be allowed to discover. Little did she know that this simple wooden box would soon become the center of the greatest test she would ever face, and that her decision about it would change the world forever. The second chapter of our story ends here, with Pandora descending toward Earth, her heart full of joy and curiosity, her arms full of mystery. Close your eyes and imagine her wonder as she sees the world for the first time. The colors more vivid than any painting, the sounds more beautiful than any symphony. Dream of her excitement and her innocence, not yet knowing the challenge that awaits her in the mysterious box she holds so carefully. Hermes and Pandora descended through the soft, billowing clouds like dandelion seeds floating on a gentle summer breeze. As they drew closer to Earth, Pandora could see more and more details of the world below, and each new sight filled her with wonder and delight. She saw gardens where humans had planted flowers in rainbow patterns, their petals shimmering in the sunlight like scattered jewels. She saw children playing games in fields of green grass, their laughter rising up to meet her like bubbles of pure joy. She saw craftsmen working with their hands, creating beautiful pottery and weaving colorful cloth, their faces peaceful and content. "Where will I live?" Pandora asked Hermes as they glided over a particularly lovely village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling stream. "Right there," Hermes replied, pointing to a house with a garden full of blooming fruit trees and a workshop where someone was busy creating something wonderful. That's the home of Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother. He's been waiting for someone special to share his life with, though he doesn't know it yet. Epimetheus was quite different from his thoughtful, forward-thinking brother Prometheus. Where Prometheus was always planning for the future and considering consequences, Epimetheus lived in the present moment, finding joy in today's sunshine and today's discoveries. He was kind and gentle, with laughing eyes and hands that could coax the most beautiful music from a simple wooden flute. On this particular morning, Epimetheus was in his garden, teaching a family of rabbits how to help him plant carrots in perfectly straight rows. The rabbits seemed to understand his gentle instructions, and they worked together in peaceful harmony, the rabbits digging small holes while Epimetheus dropped in the seeds and covered them with soft earth. Suddenly, a shadow fell across his garden, and Epimetheus looked up to see Hermes descending from the sky, accompanied by the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Pandora's feet touched the ground as gently as a butterfly landing on a flower, and when she smiled at Epimetheus, it was as if the sun had decided to shine just a little brighter. "Greetings, Epimetheus," Hermes said with his characteristic cheerful grin. "The gods have sent you a gift. This lovely lady is Pandora, created by all the gods working together. She needs a home on Earth, and Zeus thought you two might get along wonderfully." Epimetheus set down his gardening tools and approached them, his eyes wide with amazement. As someone who lived in the moment, he didn't stop to wonder why the gods had sent him such an extraordinary gift, or whether there might be hidden purposes behind their generosity. He simply felt his heart fill with happiness at meeting someone so obviously special and kind. "Welcome to my home," Epimetheus said, bowing politely to Pandora. "Though I should probably say our home now, if you'd like to stay. I have plenty of room, and I'd love to show you everything. The garden, the workshop, the little stream where the fish like to play games, and the hill where you can see the most beautiful sunsets." Pandora's eyes sparkled with delight. "Oh yes, please. I'd love to see everything and learn about everything. This world is so much more wonderful than I imagined, and there's so much I want to explore and understand." Hermes watched the two of them with a satisfied smile, already seeing that they would be very happy together. But his eyes also lingered on the mysterious box that Pandora held carefully in her arms, and for just a moment his expression grew thoughtful. "Well then," Hermes said, spreading his wings to prepare for departure, "I'll leave you two to get acquainted. Pandora, remember what Zeus told you about your special box. Keep it safe and keep it closed. Epimetheus, take good care of our divine gift." With that, Hermes launched himself back into the sky, leaving Pandora and Epimetheus standing in the garden together, surrounded by helpful rabbits and the sweet scent of blooming fruit trees. "What's in the box?" Epimetheus asked, his curiosity naturally aroused by Hermes's parting words. "I don't know," Pandora replied honestly. "Zeus gave it to me, but he made me promise never to open it. He said it contains things that are too dangerous, secrets too powerful for the world to handle. So I must never, ever look inside, no matter how curious I become." Epimetheus nodded thoughtfully. Unlike his brother Prometheus, who might have worried about the implications of such a mysterious gift from Zeus, Epimetheus simply accepted that if the gods had given Pandora the box, they must have good reasons for doing so. "Then we'll put it somewhere safe," he said simply. "How about in the spare room upstairs? It's quiet there, and nothing will disturb it. Come, let me show you around your new home." And so began the happiest time of Pandora's life. Epimetheus was the perfect companion for someone with her boundless curiosity and zest for life. Every day brought new adventures and discoveries. In the mornings, they would work together in the garden, and Pandora quickly discovered that her divine gifts made everything she touched grow more beautifully than ever before. The tomatoes she tended grew as large and red as apples. The flowers she watered bloomed in colors that had never been seen before, and the fruit trees she pruned produced fruit so sweet that the neighbors would walk by just to smell the delicious aroma. Pandora's gift of understanding animals meant that the garden became a gathering place for creatures from all around the countryside. Rabbits came to help with the planting, birds offered to eat the bugs that might damage the crops, and even the shyest deer would venture out of the forest to listen to Pandora sing while she worked. In the afternoons, Epimetheus would teach Pandora about human crafts and skills. She learned to weave on a loom, and her tapestries turned out so beautiful that they seemed to glow with inner light. She learned to shape clay on a potter's wheel, and her vases and bowls were so perfectly formed that water seemed to sing when poured from them. She learned to cook, and her bread was so delicious that the aroma alone could make people smile. But Pandora's favorite time was in the evening, when she and Epimetheus would sit by their fireplace, and she would share the stories and songs that the gods had filled her mind with. She told tales of the creation of the world, of the adventures of heroes and heroines, and of magical places far beyond the horizon. Her voice was so enchanting that often neighbors would gather outside their windows just to listen. Soon, word of the wonderful new resident spread throughout the village and beyond. People came from far and wide to meet Pandora, and everyone who met her went away feeling happier, more hopeful, and more inspired than before. Children especially loved her, for she could invent the most wonderful games and tell the most exciting stories. Pandora organized festivals where the whole community came together to share food, music, and laughter. She taught people new songs that made work feel like play, and new dances that celebrated the changing seasons. Under her influence, the village became a place of such joy and harmony that travelers would go out of their way just to experience its magical atmosphere. But through all these happy days and weeks, there was one thing that remained constantly in the back of Pandora's mind: the mysterious box sitting quietly in the spare room upstairs. No matter how busy she was, no matter how much she was enjoying her new life, she couldn't completely forget about it. Sometimes, when she was working in the garden, she would find herself wondering what could be inside that was so dangerous. Was it some terrible monster? Some powerful magic that could destroy the world? Or perhaps it was something wonderful that the gods were keeping secret for reasons she didn't understand. At night, lying in bed beside sleeping Epimetheus, Pandora would sometimes hear sounds coming from the direction of the spare room. They were very faint, so faint she couldn't be sure she wasn't imagining them. Sometimes it sounded like whispering, sometimes like soft music, and sometimes like the gentle sound of ocean waves lapping against a distant shore. "It's just the wind in the trees," she would tell herself, or mice in the walls, or the house settling as it cools down from the day's warmth. "There's nothing magical about it. I'm just imagining things because I'm curious about the box." During the day, when Prometheus was busy with his work and Pandora had finished her morning tasks, she would sometimes find herself drawn to the spare room. She would stand in the doorway, looking at the box sitting quietly on its shelf, and feel her heart racing with curiosity. The box seemed to change slightly every time she looked at it. Sometimes the carvings appeared to show scenes of people dancing and celebrating. Sometimes they seemed to depict vast libraries filled with books of knowledge, and sometimes they looked like maps of places she had never seen, with mountains that touched the sky and oceans that stretched beyond the horizon. "I promised Zeus I would never open it," Pandora would remind herself firmly, backing away from the doorway. "A promise is a promise, especially a promise to the king of the gods. I must be strong and resist my curiosity." But as the days passed, resisting became harder and harder. Curiosity, after all, was not just something Pandora felt. It was woven into her very being by Hermes himself. Fighting against her curiosity was like trying to stop herself from breathing or her heart from beating. One particularly beautiful morning, when Prometheus had gone to the neighboring village to help build a new community center, Pandora found herself alone in the house for the first time since she had arrived on Earth. She tried to keep busy with her usual activities, tending the garden, weaving a new tapestry, preparing a special dinner for Prometheus's return. But no matter what she did, her thoughts kept drifting back to the spare room and the mysterious box. Finally, she set down her weaving and walked slowly up the stairs, telling herself she would just take a quick look to make sure the box was safe and undisturbed. Standing in the doorway of the spare room, Pandora gazed at the box sitting quietly on its shelf. In the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window, it seemed to glow with an inner warmth, and the carvings on its surface appeared more vivid and lifelike than ever before. As she watched, one of the carved figures seemed to turn its tiny head toward her and smile. Another appeared to wave, as if greeting an old friend. The symbols around the puzzle lock shifted and rearranged themselves, almost as if they were trying to spell out words in a language she didn't quite recognize. "This is ridiculous," Pandora said aloud, trying to break the spell the box seemed to cast over her. "It's just a box. The carvings aren't really moving. It's just tricks of light and shadow, and my imagination running away with me." But even as she spoke these rational words, Pandora found herself taking a step into the room, then another, until she was standing right beside the shelf where the box sat. This close, she could feel warmth radiating from it, and she could hear something that definitely wasn't her imagination, a soft, melodious humming that seemed to come from inside the box itself. "What could possibly be in there?" she whispered to herself. "Zeus said it was dangerous, but this humming sounds so gentle and peaceful." Maybe he was being overly cautious. Maybe what's inside isn't dangerous at all. Maybe it's something wonderful that he just doesn't want humans to have yet. Pandora reached out with one finger and gently touched the surface of the box. It felt warm and smooth, like sun-heated stone, and the moment her skin made contact with it, the humming grew slightly louder and more complex, as if multiple voices had joined in harmony. "It sounds like singing," she breathed, her eyes growing wide with wonder. "Like the most beautiful choir in the world, singing songs I've never heard but somehow recognize. How can something dangerous sound so lovely?" Before she quite realized what she was doing, Pandora had lifted the box from its shelf and was holding it in both hands. It was heavier than she remembered, but the weight felt good and solid, like holding something precious and important. The singing grew clearer now, and she could almost make out individual voices, some high and sweet like children's laughter, others low and warm like loving whispers. "Maybe I could just look at the lock," she reasoned with herself. "I don't have to open it, I just want to understand how it works. There's no harm in looking at the outside of something, is there? Zeus said not to open it, but he didn't say I couldn't examine it." Pandora carried the box over to the window where the light was brightest and sat down in the comfortable chair that Prometheus had placed there for reading. She turned the box this way and that, studying the intricate puzzle lock that held it closed. The lock was even more fascinating up close than it had appeared from a distance. It consisted of several rings that could be rotated independently, each one covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them. Sometimes the symbols looked like letters from an ancient alphabet, sometimes like tiny pictures of stars and moons and flowers, and sometimes like musical notes dancing across an invisible staff. "It's like a puzzle," Pandora murmured, her divine gift of cleverness beginning to analyze the patterns. "If I could just figure out how these rings are supposed to align, I could understand the mechanism without actually opening it. That wouldn't be breaking my promise, would it? I'm just trying to understand how it works." As her fingers traced the symbols on the rotating rings, Pandora began to notice that certain combinations made the singing from inside the box grow louder and more harmonious. When she aligned a symbol that looked like a sun with one that resembled a flower, a new voice joined the choir, light and joyful like spring rain. When she matched what appeared to be a star with a symbol like a book, the melody became richer and more complex. "The symbols are connected to whatever's inside," she realized, her excitement growing. "Each correct alignment adds something new to the song. It's not just a lock, it's like a musical instrument made of symbols and secrets." Hour after hour, Pandora worked with the puzzle lock, telling herself she was only trying to understand it, not actually planning to open the box. But with each correct alignment she discovered, her curiosity grew stronger, and the singing from within grew more beautiful and compelling. The voices were so lovely, so full of joy and wonder, that it became harder and harder to believe they could be dangerous. They sang of knowledge waiting to be discovered, of adventures waiting to be experienced, of beautiful things waiting to be created. How could Zeus think such wonderful things should be kept locked away? As the afternoon sun began to sink lower in the sky, Pandora realized with a shock that she had been working on the puzzle for hours. Prometheus would be home soon, and she should be downstairs preparing dinner. But she had made so much progress, she was sure she was close to solving the entire puzzle. Just a few more minutes, she told herself. I'm so close to understanding how it works. Once I figure it out completely, I'll put it back on the shelf and never touch it again. I'll have satisfied my curiosity without actually breaking my promise. But as Pandora continued to work with the symbols, aligning them in increasingly complex patterns, she began to realize something that filled her with both excitement and dread. The puzzle was solving itself. Each time she found a correct alignment, the rings would give a little click and hold themselves in place as if the lock wanted to be opened. The singing grew louder and more insistent, and now she could swear she heard individual voices calling to her by name. Pandora, the voices seemed to whisper. Dear Pandora, we've been waiting so long for someone like you to find us. We have such wonderful things to show you, such amazing secrets to share. Don't be afraid. We're not dangerous at all. We're gifts waiting to be given to the world. No, Pandora said aloud, trying to resist the pull of the voices. I promised Zeus I wouldn't open the box. I can't break a promise to the king of the gods, no matter how curious I am, no matter how beautiful the singing is. But even as she spoke these words, her fingers continued to work with the puzzle, and with a final, satisfying click, the last ring fell into place. The entire lock glowed with a warm, golden light, and the lid of the box shifted slightly, as if it were taking a deep breath after being closed for so long. Pandora stared at the box in her lap, her heart racing. She hadn't meant to solve the entire puzzle. It had just happened, almost as if her hands had been working independently of her conscious mind. Now the box was unlocked, held closed only by her own willpower and the weight of her promise to Zeus. The singing from inside had grown so beautiful that it brought tears to her eyes. It spoke of wonders beyond imagination, of knowledge that could help humanity in ways she had never dreamed possible. The voices were pleading with her now, not demanding or threatening, just asking with infinite gentleness to be released. Please, dear Pandora, they whispered like the softest breeze. We've been trapped in darkness for so long. We just want to see the light again, to share our gifts with the world. You were made to seek knowledge and understanding. This is your moment to discover something truly extraordinary. Pandora closed her eyes and tried to remember Zeus's warning about the box containing things too dangerous for the world. But the voices singing to her sounded nothing like danger. They sounded like hope, like joy, like all the beautiful possibilities that life could hold. Maybe Zeus was wrong, she whispered to herself. Maybe the gods don't understand these things as well as they think they do. After all, I was created with the gift of curiosity for a reason. Perhaps I'm supposed to open this box. Perhaps it's my destiny to release whatever wonderful things are trapped inside. In the distance, Pandora could hear Prometheus's footsteps on the path leading to their house. He would be home in just a few minutes, and then her moment of decision would be over. Either she would open the box now, or she would put it back on the shelf and try to forget about it forever. The voices inside the box seemed to sense her hesitation, and they began to sing more urgently, more beautifully than ever before. They sang of discoveries that could heal the sick, of knowledge that could end hunger, of wisdom that could bring peace to the world. How could she keep such wonderful things locked away? With her heart pounding and her hands trembling, Pandora made her choice. She placed her fingers under the edge of the box's lid and slowly, carefully, began to lift it open. The third chapter of our story ends here, dear ones, at the moment of Pandora's greatest decision. Close your eyes and imagine her sitting by the window in the fading afternoon light, the mysterious box in her lap, its lid just beginning to open. Feel the weight of her choice, the pull of her curiosity, and the promise she is about to break. Dream of the beautiful singing that calls to her from within the box, and wonder with her what secrets are about to be revealed. As Pandora lifted the lid of the mysterious box, the most extraordinary thing happened. A gentle, warm light spilled out, not harsh or blinding, but soft and golden like the light of early morning sunshine filtering through honey. The beautiful singing that had been calling to her grew suddenly clear and distinct, no longer muffled by the confines of the wooden box. For just a moment, Pandora felt a surge of pure joy and wonder. The light was so beautiful, so welcoming, and the music so lovely that she was certain she had made the right choice. Whatever was in this box, it couldn't possibly be dangerous. It was far too beautiful for that. But then something changed. The golden light began to shift and swirl, and within its depths, Pandora could see shapes beginning to form. At first, they looked like butterflies made of light, dancing and spinning in graceful patterns. But as they grew more solid and distinct, Pandora realized with growing alarm that they weren't butterflies at all. The first shape to fully materialize was gray and twisted, with eyes like storm clouds and a voice like wind howling through empty spaces. As it emerged from the box, it spoke in a voice that made Pandora's heart grow heavy and cold. "I am sadness," it said, its form growing larger and more solid with each word. "I have been waiting so long to walk among humans again. Now I will teach them what it means to feel their hearts break, to lose the things they love most, to weep until they have no tears left to cry." Before Pandora could react, sadness swept past her and out through the open window, spreading like a gray mist across the peaceful village below. Everywhere it touched, joy began to fade. Children stopped playing and began to cry for no reason they could name. Adults felt their smiles slip away as a mysterious melancholy settled over their hearts. But sadness was only the first. More shapes were emerging from the box now, each one more frightening than the last. A red, angry creature with fists like hammers pushed its way out next. "I am rage," it snarled, its voice like the sound of swords clashing against shields. "I will teach humans to fight with each other, to hate those who are different, to let anger burn away their kindness and love." Rage flew out the window like a burning arrow, and wherever it went, people began to argue and shout. Neighbors who had been friends for years suddenly found reasons to quarrel. Families began to fight over trivial things. The peaceful harmony of the village started to crumble as anger spread like wildfire. Next came a creature so thin and pale that Pandora could see right through it, like looking through dirty water. "I am envy," it whispered in a voice like rustling dead leaves. I will teach humans to want what others have, to feel bitter when others are happy, to believe they deserve more than they have been given. As envy drifted out into the world, people began to look at their neighbors' possessions with resentful eyes. Those who had been content with their simple homes suddenly felt angry that others had larger houses. Those who had been happy with their modest gardens began to covet their neighbors' more elaborate flowers. More and more creatures poured out of the box. Fear, with its dark wings and cold breath that made people afraid of shadows and jumping at sounds that had never bothered them before. Greed, with its grasping hands and hungry eyes, teaching people to want more and more until they could never be satisfied. Pride, standing tall and haughty, making people think they were better than others and deserved special treatment. Pandora watched in horror as each terrible creature escaped from the box she had opened. She tried to close the lid, but it was too late. The creatures kept pouring out faster than she could contain them. Her hands shook as she struggled with the heavy wooden lid, tears streaming down her face as she realized the magnitude of what she had done. "Stop," she cried out desperately. "Please stop. I didn't know. I thought you were something beautiful, something good for the world. Please go back into the box." But the creatures only laughed at her pleas. They had been imprisoned for so long, and now they were free to spread their influence across the world of humans. They had no intention of returning to their wooden prison. Disease crept out next, a sickly green creature that left a trail of withering plants in its wake. "I will teach humans about pain and suffering," it hissed. "I will make their bodies weak and their spirits weary." War followed, clanking and clattering in armor made of broken promises and shattered dreams. "I will turn brother against brother," it boomed in a voice like thunder. "I will teach humans to solve their problems with violence instead of wisdom." As each creature escaped, Pandora could see its effects spreading across the village and beyond. The peaceful community where she had been so happy was transforming before her eyes. Laughter was replaced by arguments, cooperation by competition, love by suspicion. Just then, Prometheus burst through the door of the spare room, having heard the commotion from downstairs. His face went pale as he saw Pandora sitting by the window with the open box in her lap, tears streaming down her cheeks as more and more terrible creatures poured out into the world. "Pandora!" he cried, rushing to her side. "What have you done? Zeus told you never to open that box." "I'm sorry," Pandora sobbed. "I'm so sorry. They sounded so beautiful when they were singing inside. I thought they were wonderful things that the gods were keeping secret. I never imagined they would be so terrible." Prometheus wrapped his arms around Pandora, trying to comfort her even as more creatures continued to escape from the box. Together, they watched helplessly as their once perfect world began to change in ways they never could have imagined. Loneliness drifted out like a cold fog, making people feel isolated even when surrounded by others. Despair followed, heavy and dark, crushing people's hopes and dreams under its weight. Doubt crept along the ground like a shadow, making people question everything they had once believed in. The box seemed endless. No matter how many creatures emerged, there always seemed to be more waiting inside. Pandora and Prometheus sat together, watching in horror as each new evil was released upon the world, bringing with it new forms of suffering that humans had never experienced before. But then, just as it seemed the last and most terrible creature was about to emerge from the box, something unexpected happened. From the very bottom of the box, beneath all the darkness and despair, came a tiny voice, so small and gentle that at first they almost didn't hear it. "Wait," the voice called out, sweet and clear as a bird's song at dawn. "Please wait for me. Don't close the box yet. I'm still inside, and I belong in the world too." Pandora and Prometheus looked at each other in surprise. After all the terrible creatures that had emerged, could there be something good still trapped within? "Who are you?" Pandora asked, leaning closer to the box and wiping the tears from her eyes. "I am Hope," came the gentle reply. "I was placed at the very bottom of the box, beneath all the sorrows and troubles, because Zeus knew that if the box was ever opened, humans would need me most of all." As Hope spoke, a warm golden light began to glow from the bottom of the box, not the false, deceptive light that had first emerged, but a true, steady glow that made Pandora and Prometheus feel a little better just looking at it. "Zeus put you in the box on purpose?" Pandora asked, confused. "But why would he want to release all those terrible things into the world?" Hope's voice was patient and kind, like a mother explaining something important to a beloved child. "Because, dear Pandora, humans needed to grow up. When there is no sadness, happiness has no meaning. When there is no fear, courage cannot exist. When there are no challenges, people cannot discover how strong and wise and loving they truly are." As Hope spoke, she began to rise from the box, taking the form of a beautiful butterfly with wings that shimmered like captured starlight. She was small compared to the terrible creatures that had escaped before her, but her presence filled the room with warmth and comfort. "The world was too easy before," Hope continued, perching gently on Pandora's hand. "Humans lived like children in a garden, never growing, never learning, never discovering what they were truly capable of. Now they will face difficulties, yes, but they will also discover strength they never knew they had." "But I've ruined everything," Pandora whispered, still crying. "I've brought suffering to all the people I love. How can that be good?" Hope's wings fluttered gently, sending sparkles of light dancing around the room. "You've brought them challenges, dear one, but you've also given them the opportunity to become heroes. Watch and see. In the face of sadness, they will learn compassion. In the face of fear, they will discover courage. In the face of anger, they will choose love. And I will be there with them through it all," Hope continued, her voice growing stronger and more confident. "Every time someone feels lost, I will whisper that things can get better. Every time someone faces a challenge, I will remind them that they are stronger than they know. Every time someone feels alone, I will be there to keep their dreams alive." With that, Hope spread her shimmering wings and flew out through the window, following the path of all the other creatures that had escaped from the box. But unlike them, Hope brought light wherever she went. People who had been crying began to dry their tears and think about tomorrow. Those who had been arguing began to remember why they loved each other. Hope didn't make all the problems disappear. The other creatures were still out there, still spreading their influence across the world. But wherever hope went, people found the strength to face their difficulties with courage and determination. They discovered that even in the darkest times, there was always a reason to keep going, always something to look forward to. Pandora and Prometheus sat together in the quiet, spare room, looking at the now empty box in Pandora's lap. The intricate carvings on its surface had changed. Instead of showing mysterious scenes and symbols, they now depicted people helping each other, overcoming challenges, and building a better world together. "Do you think Zeus is angry with me?" Pandora asked softly, still feeling the weight of what she had done. Prometheus considered this carefully before answering. "I think Zeus knew exactly what would happen when he gave you that box," he said finally. "I think he knew your curiosity would eventually overcome your promise, and I think that's what he wanted all along." "But why?" Pandora asked. "Why didn't he just release these things himself, if that's what he wanted?" "Because," Prometheus said gently, taking her hand in his, "if the gods had simply imposed these challenges on humanity, people would have blamed the gods and learned nothing from their struggles. But because the box was opened by a human, out of very human curiosity and desire for knowledge, the lessons that come from facing these challenges will be truly meaningful." As if to confirm Prometheus's words, they heard voices from outside, not the angry shouting that had followed the escape of the evil creatures, but the sound of neighbors coming together to help each other. Someone was organizing a group to care for those who had fallen ill. Someone else was gathering people to rebuild what had been damaged in the fighting. And through it all, they could hear hope's influence. People speaking of tomorrow, making plans, refusing to give up. "You see," Prometheus said, squeezing Pandora's hand. "Already, people are learning to be heroes. Your curiosity didn't ruin the world, my love. It helped the world grow up." From that day forward, life in the world was different than it had been before. There were challenges and difficulties that people had never faced, sorrows they had never known, fears they had never felt. But there was also courage they had never discovered, love they had never expressed, and strength they had never needed to develop. And through it all, hope was there, sometimes as obvious as sunshine breaking through storm clouds, sometimes as subtle as a whispered encouragement in the dark of night. Hope reminded people that every ending was also a beginning, every loss was also an opportunity to appreciate what remained, every challenge was also a chance to grow stronger and wiser. Pandora spent the rest of her long life learning to forgive herself for opening the box and helping others deal with the consequences of her curiosity. She became known throughout the land as a healer and a teacher, someone who understood both the darkness and the light that existed in every human heart. She taught people that it was natural to feel sad sometimes, and that sadness could teach them to appreciate happiness more fully. She showed them that anger could be channeled into the energy needed to fight injustice and protect the innocent. She helped them understand that fear could keep them safe from real danger, as long as they didn't let it stop them from living fully. Most importantly, Pandora taught people about the power of hope, how it could sustain them through the darkest times, inspire them to keep trying when everything seemed impossible, and remind them that tomorrow could always be better than today if they were willing to work for it. The fourth chapter of our story ends here, dear ones, with hope spreading her wings across the world and humanity beginning to learn what it truly means to be human. Close your eyes and imagine Hope's butterfly wings catching the light as she flies from heart to heart, bringing comfort to the sorrowful and strength to the weak. Dream of people discovering their own courage, their own kindness, their own ability to overcome any challenge when they work together with love and determination. Many years passed after the day Pandora opened the mysterious box, and the world settled into a new rhythm, one that included both light and shadow, joy and sorrow, triumph and challenge. Children who had never known the old world of perfect simplicity grew up learning to navigate this more complex reality, and they discovered that they were far stronger and more capable than their ancestors had ever needed to be. In the cottage that Pandora and Prometheus shared, life continued with a deeper appreciation for each day's gifts. Their garden still bloomed with extraordinary beauty, but now they treasured each flower more because they understood that nothing lasted forever. Their love for each other grew stronger because they had learned that relationships required care and attention, not just the natural ease of the early days. The empty box sat on a shelf in their living room now, no longer hidden away in the spare room. Pandora had wanted to destroy it at first, ashamed of what it represented, but Hope had asked her to keep it as a reminder. "The box is not evil," Hope had explained in her gentle, musical voice. "It's simply a container that once held both challenges and solutions, problems and possibilities. Now, it can serve as a symbol of wisdom learned and growth achieved." Over the years, many people came to visit Pandora and Prometheus, seeking guidance and understanding. Some came when they were struggling with illness, others when they were facing the loss of someone they loved. Some arrived angry and bitter, others frightened and confused. All of them left feeling a little more hopeful, a little more capable of handling whatever challenges awaited them. One evening, as autumn painted the world in shades of gold and crimson, a young woman named Lyra came to their door. She was about the same age Pandora had been when she first arrived on Earth, and she carried herself with the same bright curiosity and eager enthusiasm. But her eyes were filled with worry and confusion. "I've heard stories about you," Lyra said to Pandora as they sat by the fireplace, sharing tea and honey cakes. "People say you're the one who brought suffering into the world, but they also say you understand how to live with it better than anyone else. I need to know, how do you do it? How do you wake up each morning knowing that there's so much pain and difficulty in the world?" Pandora smiled gently, her eyes reflecting the warm light of the fire. "Tell me, dear Lyra, what has brought you to ask such a deep question? What challenges are you facing that make the world seem too difficult to bear?" Lyra's voice trembled as she spoke. "My village has been struck by a terrible plague. Many people have become sick and some have died, including my beloved grandmother who raised me. The people are frightened and angry, and some are saying that the gods have abandoned us. Others blame you for releasing sickness into the world. I don't know what to believe anymore." Pandora reached across and took Lyra's hands in her own, feeling the young woman's pain as if it were her own. For a moment, she was quiet, remembering the terrible day when disease had crept out of the box, leaving its trail of suffering behind. I won't lie to you, dear one, Pandora said softly. I did release sickness into the world, along with all the other sorrows that humans now face. The guilt I felt was almost unbearable at first. I wanted to find a way to take it all back, to return the world to the simple peace it had known before. But then what? Lyra asked, leaning forward intently. Then I learned something that changed everything, Pandora continued, her voice growing stronger. I learned that the same curiosity that opened the box also drives people to find cures for diseases. The same challenges that cause pain also inspire people to take care of each other in ways they never did before. As if summoned by their conversation, Hope appeared in the room, Bien, not in her butterfly form this time, but as a warm, golden glow that seemed to emanate from the very air around them. Her presence filled the space with comfort, and Lyra's tense shoulders began to relax. Tell her what you've seen in her village, Hope whispered to Pandora, her voice like distant wind chimes. Pandora nodded, understanding. Lyra, when the sickness came to your village, what did people do? How did they respond to the crisis? Lyra thought for a moment, then her face began to brighten slightly. Well, the healers worked day and night, trying every remedy they could think of. People who had never gotten along before started working together to care for the sick. My neighbor, who barely spoke to anyone, began cooking soup for all the families affected. And some of the young people started organizing groups to gather healing herbs from the forest. And what about your grandmother? Pandora asked gently. How did she face her illness? Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes, but they were different now. Not just tears of grief, but tears of love and pride. She was incredible, Lyra whispered. Even when she was very sick, she kept teaching me things, not just recipes and household skills, but wisdom about life. She told me that every moment of joy was more precious because we knew it wouldn't last forever. She said that love was the one thing that grew stronger when shared, even in the face of loss. Your grandmother discovered one of life's greatest truths, Pandora said, smiling through her own tears. She learned that suffering can either make us bitter and small, or it can open our hearts wider than we ever thought possible. She chose to let it make her more loving, more wise, more generous with the time she had left. Hope's presence grew brighter in the room, and now both women could see her clearly, not as a butterfly, but as a figure of pure light that seemed to be both ancient and eternally young. I have been with your village through every moment of the crisis, Hope said to Lyra, her voice filled with infinite compassion. I was there when the healers made breakthrough discoveries by refusing to give up. I was there when strangers became friends because they were caring for each other. I was there with your grandmother as she chose to spend her last days teaching you about love instead of complaining about her pain. But why? Lyra asked, looking directly at Hope. Why does it have to be this way? Why can't we have all the good things, love, friendship, wisdom, courage, without having to suffer for them? Hope smiled, and her light grew even warmer. Because, dear child, those qualities only exist in relationship to their opposites. Courage means nothing if there's nothing to be afraid of. Love has no meaning if there's no possibility of loss. Wisdom only comes from learning how to navigate difficulties. Joy is only precious because we understand sadness. Think of it like this, Pandora added, picking up the empty box from its shelf and holding it in her lap. Before I opened this box, humans lived like children who had never learned to walk because they had never fallen down. They were safe, but they were also limited. They could never know their own strength because they never needed to be strong. Prometheus, who had been listening quietly from his chair by the window, spoke up for the first time. I remember those early days, he said thoughtfully. People were content, yes, but they were also empty in a way. They never experienced the deep satisfaction that comes from overcoming a challenge, or the profound joy that comes from helping someone else through a difficult time. Exactly, Hope said, turning her radiant attention to Prometheus. Before the box was opened, humans lived on the surface of life. They never dove deep enough to discover the treasures that lie hidden in their own hearts. Now they have the opportunity to become truly magnificent beings, not despite their struggles, but because of them. Lyra sat quietly for a long time, absorbing everything she had heard. Finally, she spoke again. So you're saying that my grandmother's death and all the suffering in my village serves some greater purpose? I'm saying, Pandora replied gently, that your grandmother's death is a tragedy and a loss, and it's natural and right for you to grieve. But I'm also saying that how you choose to carry forward what she taught you, that's where the meaning comes from. The suffering itself isn't good, but what people do in response to suffering can be incredibly beautiful. Hope nodded in agreement. Every person in your village who chose to help instead of hide, to love instead of fear, to keep trying instead of giving up, they transformed something terrible into something sacred. That transformation doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it purpose. What about the people who don't make those choices? Lyra asked. What about those who become bitter and angry and cruel? They're still learning, Hope said simply. Some people need more time, more experiences, more examples of love before they're ready to choose the difficult path of growth. My job is to never give up on them, to always be there, offering another chance, another day, another opportunity to choose differently. Pandora opened the empty box and showed Lyra the carvings on the inside of the lid. They depicted scenes of people in various stages of struggle and triumph, some falling down, some getting back up, some helping others to their feet. These pictures weren't here when the box was full, Pandora explained. They appeared after Hope was the last one to leave. They show the story that's still being written every day, the story of humans learning to be heroic. And what's my part in that story? Lyra asked, tracing the carved figures with her finger. That's for you to decide, Hope said, her light beginning to fade as she prepared to return to her work in the world. You can let your grief turn you bitter and angry, or you can let it teach you to treasure every moment and every person more deeply. You can hide from future pain, or you can open your heart even wider to love and service. The choice is always yours. But what if I make the wrong choice? Lyra asked anxiously. Hope's laughter was like silver bells in a gentle breeze. There are no permanently wrong choices, dear one. There are only lessons and opportunities to learn and grow. As long as you're alive, as long as you keep trying, as long as you remain open to love, I'll be there with you, offering new possibilities for hope and healing. As hope faded from sight, Lyra felt something she hadn't experienced since her grandmother's death, a sense of possibility, a feeling that tomorrow might hold something beautiful despite today's pain. "Thank you," she said to Pandora and Prometheus. "I think I understand now. The box didn't just release troubles into the world, it released the opportunity for humans to become truly human." "Exactly," Pandora said, closing the empty box and returning it to its shelf. "And every day, people all over the world are opening their own boxes, facing their own challenges, making their own choices about how to respond to difficulty. Some days they choose courage, some days fear. Some days they choose love, some days anger. But hope is always there, offering them another chance tomorrow." Lyra stayed with Pandora and Prometheus for several more days, learning about the art of living with both sorrow and joy, both challenge and possibility. When she finally returned to her village, she carried with her not just the memory of her grandmother's love, but also the tools she needed to transform that love into service to others. She became a healer, studying not just the herbs and remedies that could cure physical ailments, but also the words and actions that could heal broken hearts and discouraged spirits. She organized the village's response to future crises, teaching people how to support each other through difficult times. Most importantly, she became a keeper of hope's message, helping others understand that every ending was also a beginning, every loss also an opportunity to love more deeply. Years passed, and Lyra's own hair began to turn silver, her face to show the lines that come from a life fully lived. She had faced many more challenges, droughts and floods, conflicts and reconciliations, births and deaths. Each one had taught her something new about the resilience of the human spirit and the power of hope to sustain people through even the darkest times. One evening, as she sat by her own fireplace, telling stories to her grandchildren, one of them asked the same question Lyra herself had once posed to Pandora. "Grandmother, why does the world have to have so many sad and scary things in it?" Lyra smiled, remembering her own journey from confusion to understanding. "Because, my dear ones," she said, gathering them closer, "the sad and scary things teach us how to be brave and kind and strong. They help us discover treasures inside ourselves that we never would have found if life had always been easy." "But what if we don't want to be brave?" asked her youngest grandson. "What if we just want to be happy all the time?" "Oh, but you can be happy," Lyra said, her eyes twinkling. "True happiness isn't the absence of challenges. It's the knowledge that you can handle whatever comes, that you're surrounded by love, and that there's always reason to hope for tomorrow. That kind of happiness is much stronger and more beautiful than the simple contentment that comes from never facing any difficulties." As her grandchildren drifted off to sleep, lulled by her gentle words and the warm crackling of the fire, Lyra felt a familiar presence in the room. Hope appeared beside her chair, no longer as a glowing figure, but simply as a feeling of deep peace and infinite possibility. "You've learned well," Hope whispered, her voice now as much a part of Lyra's own thoughts as an external presence. You've discovered that the secret isn't to avoid the contents of Pandora's box, but to meet them with courage, wisdom, and love. Will you always be here? Lyra asks silently, not wanting to wake the children. Always, Hope promised. In every generation, in every heart that chooses to remain open despite disappointment, in every person who decides to help rather than hurt. As long as humans continue to grow and learn and love, I will be here, offering them the strength to keep going and the vision to see possibilities they never imagined. And so our story comes full circle, dear ones, with hope's eternal promise echoing through the generations. From Pandora's moment of curiosity to Lyra's lifetime of service, from the first opening of the mysterious box to countless daily choices to remain hopeful despite difficulty, the tale continues in every human heart. The lessons of Pandora's box are not about the dangers of curiosity or the punishment of disobedience. They are about the beautiful, terrible, wonderful complexity of being truly alive. They teach us that growth requires challenge, that love deepens through loss, that courage emerges in the face of fear, and that hope is not just a feeling but a choice we make every day. Close your eyes now and feel hope's presence with you as you prepare for sleep. Know that tomorrow will bring both joys and challenges, and that you have within you everything you need to meet them with grace. Remember that every difficulty is also an opportunity to discover how strong and loving and wise you truly are. Dream of Pandora's garden, where flowers bloom more beautifully because they are tended with care learned through experience. Dream of hope's butterfly wings, carrying light to every corner of the world where hearts need comfort and spirits need encouragement. Dream of your own journey, filled with the promise that every ending is also a beginning, every challenge also a chance to become more fully yourself. And when you wake in the morning, remember that you carry within you both the curiosity that opens boxes and the wisdom to handle whatever you find inside. You are part of the continuing story that began so long ago in a spare room where a woman's curiosity changed the world forever. You are both the author and the hero of your own chapter in humanity's endless tale of growing, learning, and choosing hope over despair. Sleep well, dear ones, knowing that hope watches over your dreams and will be there when you wake, ready to help you write another day of your magnificent, challenging, beautiful human story.